The name of my presentation is Live Tour, but I would really like to make this a live interactive tour. When I say interactive, I mean more of a conversation. So my hope really is that if you're the Central Desktop newbie, or you're the Central Desktop ninja, that you guys walk away with a few things that you can take back to your agencies, organizations, and work on immediately. So really want to make this a useful use of your time. So ask questions if something piques your interest. Let's kind of dive into it. Obviously, this is our perspective as an agency at Engauge, and by that means we don't necessarily have everything figured out ourselves. So I'll take you through a couple preliminary slides here just to give us some background and context of who I am and who Engauge is, and then we'll jump right into the live tour. So I'm Unrein. My title, as you can see, VP of Project Operations, and what that really means is I oversee specifically the project and delivery management for Engauge. So I've been at Engauge for about 5 years now. Been working with Central Desktop since we purchased Central Desktop back in January 2012. So myself and our COO, who you guys may have seen presented here last year, Raj Chowdhury, he and I are responsible for setup, implementation, and adoption of Central Desktop within the organization. By show of hands, just to kind of understand the group here, how many of you guys have been working with Central Desktop less than a year? And then 1 to 2 years? And then anybody over 3 years, by chance? Okay. We got one. You want to come over then? All right. Well, we're all kind of in the same boat. I'm around a year or two, so I think there's a lot. This hopefully is, like I said, an open conversation that we can learn a lot from each other in this conversation and outside of this. So, quick agenda outline, so you guys kind of know specifically what I want to get through here. I'll give you just a very brief overview of Engauge and how we're set up from a system standpoint. And then we'll jump right into the live tour with some use cases around Workspaces, how we categorize our Workspaces, which is obviously fundamental to the navigation and setup of CD. And then we'll look a level deeper for some of the more experienced folks, and we'll look at workflow from the standpoint of tasks and assignments, as well as databases and workflows, which I feel like we've gotten a lot better over the couple of years that we've been working with the tool. And then lastly, we'll do some tips on driving adoption, again from my perspective, within my experience of trying to get folks on board with using Central Desktop. So it was kind of good to hear some of the questions that I heard at the end of the reps conversation last session, so I think I'll cover up on some of the things as well, and hopefully help, again, bring your questions along the way. So quick backstory on Engauge. So we were founded in 2007 from the vision of Master Marketer Stan Grapp. He brought together 3 different entities. He brought together a traditional agency out of Columbus, a digital agency in Atlanta, and a direct marketing agency in Austin. We've since consolidated the Austin, since digital marketing and direct marketing are so merging so much these days. We no longer have our Austin office. We do have an Atlanta office, Pittsburgh, Columbus, and a small group in Orlando. And as I mentioned this morning in his open presentation, I'd be kind of remiss to not mention that we were acquired a couple months ago by Publicis and are now merging with Moxie. So I won't complicate the intro any further other than kind of mentioning that. And obviously that brings a whole new dynamic. But I think for us as an organization and using Central Desktop, it just kind of elevates the importance of a tool like Central Desktop from the standpoint of operational efficiency and how we're going to collaborate as a larger organization, since we've basically doubled our size in the last 2 months now. Full service marketing agency, so just kind of through some of the brands that we work with. We do everything from TV spots, radio broadcasts, print, packaging, and then a lot of digital. We're really focused digitally first. That's really the core of our business, but we are full service, so we do offer other services. In terms of our setup, just kind of our agency management ecosystem, it's been interesting talking to some of you guys in terms of how you're also set up. Like I mentioned, in January 2012, we kind of started our consolidation effort of paring down the laundry list of tools that we have, and I think some of you guys have shared a similar story in terms of having multiple intranet, extranet properties, SharePoint instances, Google Docs, WebEx, Conference Bridge, Dropbox, you name it. We had it. We were trying to figure it out. So we consolidated a lot of that through the implementation of Central Desktop, and then immediately after implementing Central Desktop, we thought it'd be a great idea to revamp our whole agency management platform. So we've been going through and are still, I would say, working through our implementation of NetSuite and OpenAir. So NetSuite in the blue box there is our primary financial management tool. So anything related to client setup, CRM, finance, SOWs, things like that are originating out of NetSuite. And then there, as you can see, with the direct line to OpenAir, which OpenAir is a complementary tool owned by NetSuite, more so for the project management, resource management side. So we use in tandem NetSuite and OpenAir. So we're definitely very curious and hopeful in terms of the partnership that Central Desktop mentioned earlier about their working relationship now with NetSuite and what might come of that. So any questions on our setup there? So before I jump in real quick, I just wanted to go through the workspace groups here that I'm going to talk you through. So we have 4 primary workspace group types. And some of you guys may have something similar, something different. So the first one is our internal workspaces. Our primary internal workspaces are intranet. So we do use Central Desktop, as I'll show you here shortly, for our intranet. We also have department workspaces, so every discipline within our organization, from creative to development to user experience, strategy, project management, so on, have their own department workspaces. And then new business has their own workspace type that they set up when we're doing new pitches. And then lastly, we have client workspaces, which is as expected with, I think, the audience that we have here. So as you'll probably notice, the first 3 are really all internal, but we kind of, from a use case and a navigation standpoint, we separate out those things between internal department and new business. So let me try to switch over here and show you an example of each. So this is our existing intranet. So the browser resolution is a little bit off, so it's kind of messing up my header a little bit. And also to note, we're in the process of, we've been working on the last 2 months of rolling out our new intranet. Unfortunately, it was not ready in time to share with this presentation, but a lot of the components that I did want to talk about are represented in our existing intranet, and hopefully give you guys some ideas of some ways that you guys can set up your own intranet if you're not already doing that, or maybe adapting. I know I've got a ton of new ideas that we're looking at for our intranet from the RAP folks in terms of some of the cool things that they're doing as well. So I think the more we can see examples of how people have their workspaces set up, it just gives you an idea of things that you can cherry pick and implement. So some things that we use the intranet for, first and foremost, from an onboarding standpoint, and really, the first day somebody comes on to Engauge, they're indoctrinated into the use of Central Desktop. We have a couple sections that they have to go to on day 1 in terms of the HR center with the new hire paperwork, if they want to get anything related to benefits, and any of the forms that we have with an internet connection here. So this is the HR's portal for anything and everything that a new hire would need to have access to, download. So right off the bat, when you come into the organization, and the rep team talked about, as the more we get new employees into the system, you kind of change that old guard to the new guard mentality. Getting people exposed to Central Desktop right away has really helped. Another area that we get folks looking at right away within our hub, what we call our hub, that's the name of our intranet, is the Inside Engauge tab. So within Inside Engauge, you can get things like information about our different offices, overviews on each department, who's on which client team assignments. Click on this one, who's who matrix. So if you wanted to know who should I go talk to about CRM, or I got a pitch on mobile, so I need to talk to the guy that knows mobile best within the organization. We have just a quick wiki page here that kind of outlines the who's who within our organization in terms of leadership within those disciplines. Within the homepage, we also use it as kind of a staying up to speed on what's going on within the organization. So obviously, what you don't want to have with your intranet is something that just becomes stale and it's just a repository for documents, because then it's really just a workspace with a files and discussions area. So a few areas that we try to keep updated is our upcoming anniversaries. So obviously in the agency environment, there's a lot of turnover. I think the tenure for most agency employees are somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 years. So celebrating anniversaries is a pretty big deal. So we try to recognize the people's anniversaries on a month-to-month basis, and kind of talk through their terms of service. In the middle here, you'll see the out the door, which again is outdated because we're a couple months behind with our new intranet, but that is an area that we use to kind of spotlight some new projects that we may have launched. And then below that, you have your buzz and announcements. So we have an app club that meets monthly, and it talks about the latest trends in mobile applications, and then some other agency updates people can stay current on with the buzz. We also have an employee spotlight that we try to change out weekly, and we basically are spotlighting new employees that are coming into the organization, and try to do it, kind of get to know them beyond just their job title and what they do within the organization. A lot of, in case you're wondering, in terms of updating, this is all updated by our office manager. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but it's definitely important to identify who's going to be owners of these different parts of Central Desktop and who's going to make updates. Within our intranet specifically, we have the office managers, there's 2 office managers that are specifically trained on how to make the updates within these pages. Some of the customizations that you may have noticed, we haven't taken that far. A lot of this is basic HTML, just table-based structure that we've trained folks to kind of go and not break things with the WYSIWYG interface that Central Desktop has. So that's our hub. So the next workspace I wanted to show you was our department workspaces. So this is an example. This is the one that I lead. So near and dear to my heart, project management. So we have some application blocks here related to the calendaring system within Central Desktop. We have a kind of a department overview in terms of what we stand for and what we do. We have an application block for recent discussions, and then we have PM templates, which are probably the most critical reason why we set up the department workspaces in terms of keeping people on the same page with templates. So if you look in our files and discussions area, in terms of onboarding and just ongoing, keeping people on the same page, we have a full index templates that we share across our project management office and as well with our account managers that need access to these things. So anything from writing a creative brief to what should a meeting minute document look like, what should an agenda look like that's coming out of Engauge, what's some standard project plan templates, anything that a new employee or even an existing employee might need from a template standpoint, they can come into this project management area and grab and download. The other thing that we started to do as of late within our workspace is add our team role report. So on a twice-a-month basis, I have all of my project managers do project budget reports for all of their projects and accounts. And we used to do this all in spreadsheets, and basically we've converted that all over to online docs, which is nice because it has the versioning built into the platform. Obviously, if you guys have used the online docs, I obviously can't show you a real live one, but I'll just kind of show you a peek of the template. So, and have you guys used online docs before within Center Desktop? So you can actually take a template that you build in Excel and import it into Center Desktop, and it actually does it pretty well in terms of keeping the structure and the format. So this is just, again, I cleared out some of the data, but at least you can kind of get a sense in terms of how we structure the report. And then as you add reports and save new versions, there's a new tab that opens up here in terms of versions that you can, if you need to look at a previous version, you can do that as well. So, we're kind of your basic burn report, and then we have some other fields related to revenue forecasting that we do with finance. So, percent complete for the month coming, and then risk in terms of trying to do some basic risk management, at least from my seat, so I can see if there's any quick red flags that are coming from this report. And then the last column here is launch. So if there's any launches that are coming up, we want to make sure our QA team is queued up. So the other area that we use within some of these department workspaces is the Wiki. So we have an ongoing Wiki, which is more of kind of a knowledge sharing area. So within our organization, we do a ton of digital. So trying to get a lot of our junior project managers up to speed on some of the nomenclature around digital, what are the right questions to ask around digital, what are some things to think about, and just kind of instilling that continuous learning mindset into folks. We have a section here where people can click in, and if they didn't, they've never worked on a project that had a content management system, well, where do I even start in trying to learn about content management systems? We have some kind of quick little introductory content that we put in here into our Wiki. So that's kind of the primary uses of our department workspace. Our new biz workspace is another one that I can't kind of reveal completely, so I can't show you things that we're pitching right now, obviously, but this setup is very similar. So this is actually the business development homepage, and then there's obviously actual pitch workspaces for each individual pitch that we're working through. These guys have really latched on the Center Desktop and become big champions for us within the organization, which has helped a lot because if you think about where the new business discipline sits within an organization, they're touching a lot of cross disciplines throughout the duration of a pitch, and then with the pitch team itself. So you're getting creative folks, the UX, the strategy, the developers, and so on, all exposed and kind of interacting within Center Desktop right from the pitch. So within here you have your asset library. So typically on an actual pitch workspace we'll have the brief of what the opportunity is. We'll have the RFP linked and attached on the home page here, and then you'll have some subfolders related to if we're doing any creative or if we're doing anything specific that we're going to deliver for the presentation that we'll put in the asset library, or if we get anything from the client. The calendar is heavily used by the new biz team in terms of the meetings that they're having and the stand-ups that they're doing. And then over here on the right, which is a pretty cool use of the database, they created a database to collect and house the bios for each of the employees that are part of the pitch process. So if you only have to do this once you're on a pitch team and you add a bio, it's within the database, so you don't have to keep doing it over and over again. But for folks that haven't done it, it's a really nice, easy way to just point people to this form, have them fill out all their kind of details, what categories they've worked in terms of industry experience, some of their brand and specialty experience, and then they can even attach a headshot to their bio. And then that's all saved in a database that they can pull out and use as they need for the proposals and the pitch decks. Okay, and the last client workspace the last type of workspace is our client workspace. Chick-fil-A, we're the social AOR for Chick-fil-A, and then we've started to expand into other things with Chick-fil-A around their mobile and loyalty programming. So within here, you'll see a lot of different projects. This is an example of a workspace where we do a lot of project-based work, and a little bit into my presentation, I'll show you a different type type of client workspace that's more retainer-based. But this is more of a project-based setup, and so you'll see recent activity around a lot of different projects in here, any things that are going on from a deliverable or deadline standpoint, and then any shortcuts for folders. And this one, with the amount of social work that we do, this is their primary shortcut folder that they need. But as you'll see here in both files and discussions, the way we have it set up, there's a slew of projects that these guys are working on. So this is one area where we had to kind of do a workaround for the whole, if you guys saw the preview of things that are coming out for Central Desktop, this is where we're really, really excited about the account hierarchy that's coming out for Central Desktop, which is going to help immensely because we either run into a situation like this or we run into situations where we're opening up individual workspaces for a project. And so we've told people to avoid doing that. The only time we really open up a per project workspace is if it's a highly technical or highly integrated partnership where we're going to have multiple vendors. Maybe we're working with a PR agency or we're working with a brand agency and we only do the development. Those types of situations we will open up project workspaces, but for the most part, we steer people towards account workspaces at the moment. So the new feature is going to help us quite a bit. But you'll see here on the left-hand side, so we have certain folders that we predetermine. So this is based off of the template that we roll out. And we'll usually start people with an initial folder, which will just have XXX, and then they'll fill in what the title of the project job number is to match going back to our open air setup where they get the actual project job number. Account management is something that is in all of our workspaces along with project management. So there's certain preset folders that are always in there. I'll kind of open these up so you guys can see some of the things that we set up. So within account management, you're going to have your things around billing, proposals, estimates, research, and then within project management, most of this we're opening up for the client to see. So, if they wanted to see meeting minutes or agendas or project plans or status reports, no problem. But then we'll lock down budget reports in terms of how we want to present that to the client. Some clients, obviously, well, not obvious, but some clients will show the budget report too, other clients we don't. So this depends on the working relationship and the setup that we have with that account. And then we also, as a standard folder within, which is kind of hard to see within this setup, is Dropbox. So we literally call it Dropbox. When we rolled out Central Desktop, like the quick win for us to get the existing employees on board with using Central Desktop was we were getting rid of Dropbox and we were giving you guys, everybody in the organization, Dropbox capabilities. Really what we were doing was giving them a file folder on the cloud that they could access at any time. But we call it Dropbox just because that's what people are used to in terms of the name and the functionality. So we have Dropbox, and that's what we tell our clients. So Dropbox is literally used how Dropbox would be used, and then we also use the Dropbox folder for FTP. So if we're sharing assets between vendors or clients, we'll drop it in Dropbox and have them grab it, or we'll do a shareable link out of Central Desktop within the client workspace, or we'll do it out of the, we also have a Dropbox within our intranet, which I didn't show you guys. Yeah, I'll show you another kind of perspective and difference in terms of how we do client workspaces with the food line set up here shortly. So any questions on the workspace types or setups?
I have one.
Yeah.
Why do you discourage individual project workspaces?
One of the early reasons was it was getting too cumbersome with all the number of projects that you would have in your navigation view. And then before we put in strict kind of guidelines around project closure, we had hundreds of project workspaces open up. So we've gotten a lot better on the governance and kind of having the project managers take ownership of closing out and archiving project workspaces. But back when we kind of made that rule and wanted to have everything within an existing workspace, was kind of our angle and our push. So I have slides if you guys, I'm assuming they'll be sharing our decks with you guys, so I'm going to skip through some of the stuff that I'm talking through, so you guys don't have to stare at slides and me talking through slides. But it will be here for reference if you guys want to have my presentation. So let's dig in a little bit deeper and look at specific workflow and collaboration beyond Workspaces. So the two things I want to look at are tasks and assignments and the databases and workflows. So again, just kind of crowd participation. How many of you guys are using tasks and assignments to actually manage projects? Cool. And then databases and workflows. Oh, cool. Okay, so we got a pretty good mix. So let's compare notes on how we use tasks and assignments here in databases and see what you guys can glean from how we're using some of this. So Foodline is a retainer-based account relationship. So for Foodline, we do full digital AOR. So everything from email, social, to website updates we're doing on a weekly basis for them. So we have a pretty well-oiled machine in terms of project team and account team working in collaboration together. So I wanted to give you guys a peek behind the hood here a little bit in terms of our setup for Foodline and how we actually manage tasks through the project management tab and specifically under tasks and assignments. So the first thing to notice is we actually have the client trained to add in their own tasks. So we had a big challenge with Foodline where, and I worked on Foodline when I first started at Engauge, so I was well aware of this problem. They would get a lot of corporate initiatives where they make a lot of partnerships with NASCAR and regional sponsorships and things like that they're trying to get out in the community. And so we would get a lot of these types of campaign initiatives in bits and pieces. So our day-to-day digital marketing contact would send us an email like, hey, I want to start doing this, and then a couple days later we get another email, here's some more information about that campaign, and then a week later we get the actual attachment for what corporate communications was using in print in the stores. And so you were trying to track down 3 or 4 emails and kind of keep up with that conversation and what they were trying to do within that specific campaign. And it was a challenge. So we kind of brought that challenge to them and showed them a couple different options in terms of how we could work through this. And we actually got them to get on board with actually adding in the tasks themselves. So they add in the tasks that they want to see from a maintenance standpoint. Now this is maintenance and not necessarily project-based. So if Foodline has a big project that they want us to work on, we're going to do a project brief. We're going to kind of open it up on our end. This is kind of your week-to-week maintenance, anything related to email, web, and social updates on a day-to-day or weekly basis. So this was the Halloween cupcake promotion, which you can see is they finished up today, but wasn't done when I had put this presentation together. So this task that was opened up by the client serves as kind of the central conversation between the client and our team. So as you scroll through here, you see the initial description and attachment that they provided, and then the discussion thread kind of ensues. So they give us some additional feedback. We turn around and do, in this case, account for them and look for their comments and approval, and this one was an easy one, and they just approved right away. So this is, as you'll see here, one of the reasons why we personally as an organization have not really gotten into the proofing engine as much as I'd like, because of situations like this where we're collaborating within the task, and it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to pull this out, put this into a proofing engine, and then kind of have the client bouncing back and forth. So we do everything, in this case, within the task itself. Now, within this individual request, there could be a lot of different people that are affected, and what I didn't mention up here was the people that get assigned to this task are everybody from the project manager, the person that oversees email, the person that oversees social, and so on. So everybody's kind of tapped into what's the latest request and update that's coming through. And so the project manager's job is to break this task down into individual work streams and individual team member tasks, which start showing up over here on the left. So over here, to make it easy for our setup, the way we do task lists is we actually create shortcuts for individual people that are on the team. So I know you can look up tasks by assignee, but that list gets pretty long in terms of really the 5 or 6 people that are typically doing tasks within this team. And so we just set up shortcuts to different people's task lists directly. So here for Joe Hansen, I think I saw he had finished this today. He's got a lot of stuff on his list. Okay. Okay, so this is Halloween cupcake promo slider. So he's a front, Joe Hans is a front-end developer for our team. He has to go in and update the website homepage slider. So this is his individual task of what he needs to do. He needs to push to staging by the end of today. And so once he finishes that task, the project manager is responsible for going in and marking that task as complete.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why doesn't he just complete the task? Why does the project manager have to do it?
Because what we found was a lot of times the associate, whether it was the creative or the developer, wouldn't know the right time to mark complete. So they would finish a task and mark it complete before it was even reviewed by anybody or QA'd. So until it's reviewed by account and project management and or QA'd, we just leave it open in case there has to be some additional work that needs to be done. So, so that responsibility falls down to the project manager to kind of say, okay, this is when it's actually closed. So the other thing I wanted to show you was databases. So the challenge we had, and the reason we got into databases actually really early on in their implementation for Central Desktop. We actually tried to do a project request form, and that kind of didn't work out as well as we had hoped it would. So we had kind of put the databases on the back shelf for a while, and within the last 6 months over the summertime, we re-looked at databases and workflows from a challenge that we were having from a resource management standpoint. So if you remember our setup, we have NetSuite, Financial Management, OpenAir for resource management, and then we have Central Desktop for collaboration. So the nice thing about OpenAir is it does a really good job of resource management, but it's limited from a collaboration standpoint, and it's somewhat limited from an information standpoint that you can give to the associates. So our associates in OpenAir are really only interfacing with OpenAir to put their timesheets in. So they can't go into OpenAir and see what are the details behind the 8 hours or 12 hours that you allocated me for the week. So there was a disconnect between the time that project managers were allocating the resources and the actual information that an associate needed to complete their work. So, you'd have creative folks running around trying to find job numbers to do their timesheets. You'd have them tracking down creative briefs, tracking down the details, tracking down what's the specific timeline. We also have a creative manager that's in our resource management mix, and she was having the same kind of challenges. So we would know very easily through OpenAir if somebody was booked 60, 80 hours, but we wouldn't necessarily know, okay, of those 60 hours, what's due at the beginning of the week, what's due at the end of the week. Does the employee have everything that they need to work through those 60 hours if they really had to work through those 60 hours? And so we worked through this creative request form to try to tackle that challenge. So we set these up within each of our workspaces. So anytime you have a creative work request, you go into your individual workspace and fill out a creative request form. And so I'm going to show you what these look like here. So this is one project that I was actually helping out on for IHG. We were doing white papers for them, white papers for their social team and for their hotel owners. We'll talk about Facebook, Twitter, and Foursquare, and how to use those within their organization. So for our creative team, once we had the content for the white paper, we needed them to actually design the white paper itself. So I was filling out a form here myself here, so you'll see I submitted it. We have all the essential information that a creative person would need to create to finish their job. They have the open air project number. They have a high-level overview of what the task or the ask is. They have a timeline for when the review cycle is looking like. And then we're able, as project managers, to go in and select resources that we would like to work on our papers, or on our requests. So I've had Pratt work on the last 2 papers. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense ramping up a whole new creative person, and maybe the creative manager doesn't know that. So we put in resources that we request. That doesn't necessarily guarantee that we get that resource. They may be, on a pitch or on another project that they don't have time, but we're at least able to kind of put that request in, and then we can also add notes in terms of that person's work on this, and they would be a good fit. Down on the bottom here, we have account approvers and creative approvers. If there's an actual creative director on this assignment, we didn't have a creative director per se that was going to be looking at this like some of our other brand work. But I was basically playing kind of that AM/PM role for this, so I was the account approver as well. But if there was other people that needed to be CC'd for the creative traffic manager to keep in the loop on this request, we could put notes in here in terms of, also CC the UX department or somebody in data so they can weigh in, what is creative signing us up for something that we can't actually execute against. And then on the bottom here, it's for administrator only. So the project manager, and this starts to get into the workflow, the project manager does all the way up to here and then submits that request. And that fires off the first of 3 workflows. So here's our 3 workflows. So the first workflow, and these aren't in order for I don't know what reason, but the first workflow is notify creative manager. So that whole request, all the details, any links, all the descriptions, gets sent to the creative manager. And I just want to point out something to you. If you haven't used workflows before, they're pretty powerful, and you can customize them pretty specifically. So in here, just to kind of walk through this, we're doing a workflow to notify someone via email. So we're notifying the creative manager. We also end up notifying, just as a confirmation that your submission went through, the actual person that submitted the request. So when the record is added, we're sending an email to myself, who sent the request, and Wendy, who's our creative traffic manager. And down here in the email, this is what takes a little bit of work and testing and practice, is there's specific dynamic fields that you can put into the email that gets sent off. So we're actually dynamically, by using all these pound hashtags, which you can get from using these available fields, we're actually pulling in all these fields. So we're pulling in the timeline, we're pulling in the description, we're pulling in the project number, name, task name, and all those critical information and elements into that email that gets sent to the creative manager. So if she wanted, she doesn't even have to go back into the system. She can read the email and react and take action off of the email. What she does have to do, once she kind of gets in her mind, okay, this is what needs to be done and this is what I think can take on the work, she has to go into the system and change this field from status. It starts as pending, and once she changes it to approved, that fires off the second workflow. And that is to create we had to separate out these workflows. There's actually 2 workflows that are happening simultaneously. So the first one is to create a task and assign a resource. So it's taking, again, all those details and dynamically taking those details of description, timeline, etc., and putting it into a task within that workspace. And again, these creative request forms are on a per workspace basis. So it's creating a task and assigning And so that assignment gets emailed to the creative person. So the nice thing about that is for some of our creatives that are, for whatever reason, technology resistant and don't want to go into Center Desktop, which I'm sure nobody has that problem in here, right? We have two ways they can interact. If they're comfortable with using Center Desktop, they can go in and update the task. If they're not comfortable, all they have to do is reply to the email that gets emailed to them from the task assignment to let us know that they're done, and then we can go in and check. The other thing that happens is, obviously, the project manager may or may not know that that assignment and task has been created, so another workflow gets fired off here for the notify requester of assignment. So I would get an email letting me know that Wendy approved my task, and that it's been assigned to Pratt, or it's been assigned to Alex, or whoever within our creative department to be completed. So again, that's solved a big problem for us in terms of just kind of keeping particularly our creative team on the same page and trying to get over the pain that they were experiencing of not having Center Desktop and OpenAir fully integrated together. And so this is kind of our way of working around that. Cool. So I'm running out of time here a little bit, so I'm going to finish up with some of the adoption just notes and tips and things that we've experienced. So first and foremost, and this was mentioned in the last session, and I didn't really rank these, although this one is definitely number one in my book, is getting executive and leadership sponsorship. So when we were rolling out Center Desktop, we definitely made sure we spent quality time with our CEO, as well as the managing directors of each of our offices, so Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Columbus, making sure that those managing directors understood the benefits of what we were trying to do. And then also from a leadership standpoint, our department heads, as well as our account leads. So really, if you think about anybody director level and above, you really want to get in the loop on what you're trying to do with Center Desktop. Because obviously getting people on the same page before you're rolling it out to the associates just makes it that much easier. So if you haven't done that, or you're kind of struggling with adoption, I think the first thing I would look at is, do you have your senior leadership within your organization on board with what you're trying to do? So identify Center Desktop owners. So this is beyond the short-term implementation. So with a lot of tools and implementation projects, you see groups of people or teams kind of activated, they implement the platform, and then everybody kind of disbands and goes away. With us, we've made a concerted effort to make sure that we have people that are within the organization that continuously are owners of the platform. So I'm part of the operations team, so me and a couple other people from an administrative standpoint are always linked in and looped in on ownership of Center Desktop. We also have our project managers who are the day-to-day doers. We have them opening Workspaces off of the templates that we pre-built. They're putting in the tasks, they're uploading the files and using it and pushing the teams, and really answering the question. I know there was one question in terms of time commitment for managing Center Desktop. At this point, I probably spend a couple hours at the most a week on Center Desktop administration, because I've pushed it all down to my project managers and my program managers on a team-by-team basis. So the questions that happen on a team basis or an account basis go to the account people first, and then when they can't answer those questions, they come to me. So I'm kind of the last line of defense, which is fine, but it gives me a barrier of not having to admin Center Desktop as much. Number 3, employee inclusion and finding champions. So I kind of alluded to the new business team really latching on. They were big advocates within our organization of being champions of Center Desktop beyond ourselves, the implementation team, and my project managers. And so other people that aren't within the direct implementation of the platform. So new business for us. The HR team for onboarding, they really latched on to how they could leverage Center Desktop for onboarding and training. And then from an inclusion standpoint, we've done a lot around meeting with the department heads on a quarterly basis at the least, to talk to them about how they're using it and how we can improve their lives. And that's really how the creative database and workflow that I showed you earlier came to fruition. Clearly defined use cases, so if you haven't done this, or you're kind of early in your implementation, or even if you've kind of been implementing things and you're trying to figure out, what's the next steps for us, it's outlining on paper what are the use cases, how are you going to work through client project workflows, what are you going to use Central Desktop for, and what are you not going to use Central Desktop for. So for us, for an example, for files, we do not use Central Desktop for source files. So, and it's known throughout the entire organization, you do not put PSDs or video files onto the Central Desktop cloud server. You put that on the shared network server. The things that go on Central Desktop are final deliverables, and everybody within our organization knows that.
Question on that.
Yep.
How do you kind of keep things synced up as far as a folder structure, or just within the context of the project, those files?
That's definitely the manual effort that falls on the project managers.
Okay.
So what we try to do is we try to keep the files from like final deliverable out of Central Desktop until it's final or we're sharing with the client. So you will have to update it through the revision cycle. So if you're going through client revision 1 or 2, that final deliverable could get updated, but that's kind of part of the account and project management workflow within Central Desktop of how they use the tool.
Was that driven by just concerns around upload time for big PSDs, or hesitation on the part of the art directors?
A little bit of both. Definitely the creative team is much more in sync and comfortable with their use of the shared network server. But then from a space standpoint, we have with our account, I think, around 4 terabytes of data. But if we would have had all the movie files and the PSDs, we wouldn't blown through that, because we're already probably halfway through our space as is right now with just the Dropbox usage and the final deliverables. I'm getting a 5-minute signal here. So last few, training and resources and support. For us, we did this in a couple different ways that are beyond just obvious of getting people together on a one-time basis. We try to do lunch and learns periodically. When we have town halls and we talk about getting the CEO on board, we actually have our CEO reference Central Desktop in some way, whether he's pointing to something within Central Desktop or using it himself within a presentation. Lead with benefits. I kind of alluded to this with the creative implementation. Everybody's not going to be as excited about Central Desktop as we are. So it's really leading with how are you going to remove somebody's pain or challenge or obstacle that they're experiencing before you show them the cool form that we've created that took us hours, but they can do it. Provide value. I know this is mind-blowing, but just kind of dig a little bit deeper than just the surface of providing value. So provide value early and often. So I mentioned earlier, for us, providing value meant getting the HR team on board with onboarding and using Central Desktop and the intranet. And then for our existing employees, it was Dropbox. So finding those things that are those pain points and those quick wins for you within your organization, getting people to jump on board. And then also just using the lens of, is this making my organization an easier place to work? We have an internal goal at Engauge of making Engauge an easier place to work. It's one of our 5 or 6 goals that we have as an organization. And so everything that we do with Central Desktop, if it's not making our organization easier to work in, then we're not probably implementing it. One size does not fit all, and I think you've seen that from this presentation in terms of some of the client workspaces. Collect feedback. I think we had a question in the last session. So for us, we've done a lot of informal exploration from a department leadership standpoint, but then we've also done SurveyMonkey surveys via email just to get some information back. And then evolve. If you're the less than one year, or I know that Texas Stewart and his team are just kind of getting going on the Central Desktop implementation. There's a saying, don't try to boil the ocean. It's definitely true with Central Desktop. I mean, it's a big platform that can do a lot of different things. So find the things that are going to be highly impactful and get yourself your quick wins early, and then evolve and take that continuous improvement mindset forward. And with that, any last questions? Yeah.
In your workspaces, you also have workspaces for your vendors, or they collaborate within the client's workspace automatically? You have outside vendors that you work with?
We will have some outside vendors working within the client workspace as a collaborative team if we're letting the client in. There's certain situations where we'll let the vendor in. Otherwise, a lot of times with our vendors, I would say as a general rule though, they're doing shareable links where we're not giving them full preview or access into our workspace. Just because most of the relationships with the vendors are short-lived and it's really passing files. So we can do that with shareable links. But there are times where it's highly collaborative and it does make sense to add them as an external user, so we will do that too. Yeah.
Because of our long-term relationship with CD, we're running into trouble with storage space. At what point do you guys decide to start getting rid of things?
That's a good question. We have not tackled that, to be honest. We've gotten 100% better on archiving, but we have not deleted things off of our cloud yet. So that's definitely something that will be, I think we'll run into as we're getting into year 3 from a space standpoint, just optimizing the space that we do have for the long term. So yeah, we haven't really tackled kind of deleting things off of our space. Yeah.
Probably more questions for some of the desktop, but you mentioned a proofing engine, and I don't know what that is.
So the proofing engine, without kind of getting too far into it, you can take a file or an image or a video asset and open up a workflow that's specific for review and approval. So you can have a specific team that reviews and comments and approves, let's say you have a JPEG of a homepage comp. You can put that into the online proofing engine and have a team, whether it be the client or internal, look at that comp, make marks and edits on the comp, write comments about the comp. So it's really cool and powerful. It's just, again, us as an organization, we're still trying to crack that nut ourselves. Yeah.
In your workflow, you showed how you requested resources. So in that example, is it the department director that is actually confirming that that resource would be assigned? And then
For us, it's a creative. We have a creative manager.
have you considered trying to have resource availability somehow in the system?
That would be pretty awesome. That's once they continue to integrate with NetSuite and OpenAir, that's a possibility. We're just hoping step 1 to get project numbers to correlate between the two systems. That would be pretty cool.
We actually are able to track our resources within CD, so I don't have the information, but I can put you.
Okay.
Cool. Do you have any challenges in regards to when you're collaborating with your creative team and your client in terms of, sometimes the internal don't want to see, they don't want to see the client comments directly before they get a plan or something.
Yeah.
So how do you manage the comments going back and forth in terms of maybe asset that you're working on between your teams and maybe some of the clients?
So we will definitely take specific steps to separate out client-facing conversations and discussions and our internal. Because a good example is that when we do a lot of clients, we do social content posting. So we have a content calendar, and we're making copywriting for the post for the week or the month, right? All of that collaboration and discussion, when you see the discussion threads in our workspaces, are all happening privately outside of the client's preview. So those are locked down, so the client can't see those conversations. So and that's why part of the reason why the food line thing we have separated out. So you have a front-end developer that might not be, client savvy. They're going to say what the hell are we doing? Why are we doing this? So you don't want that commentary showing up for the client. So all the individual task owners folders are private versus that client conversation is open.
For your review cycle, you just started a new review cycle with the client.
Yeah, no, we knew that. That was one of what I was thinking.
We're out of time. I was sorry.
Manhattan Police Fire Park afterwards. Thank you so much.